The Galactic Council's chamber fell silent as Admiral Zethkar's four arms gestured dismissively at the holographic display showing Earth's primitive fleet. His serpentine neck swayed with arrogance as he addressed the assembled representatives of 47 civilizations. Honored delegates, his translator rendered his hissing speech into standard galactic. These humans dare to refuse our ultimatum. Their technology is millennia behind ours. Their ships are crude metal shells propelled by chemical rockets. They have no energy shields, no quantum weaponry, no dimensional manipulation capabilities. The Veltari, ambassador, her crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into rainbow patterns, chimed in agreement. Our preliminary scans show they still use kinetic projectiles and explosive warheads. How quaint. My hatchlings play with more sophisticated toys. Murmurs of condescending laughter rippled through the assembly. The humans had been discovered only 3 cycles ago, a young species that had barely crawled beyond their home system. When the Council had demanded their immediate surrender and integration into the galactic hierarchy, the humans had done something unprecedented. They had said no. Perhaps, suggested the Teclon representative through his mechanical voice, Box, we should reconsider. Our historical records show that young species often display unpredictable behaviors when cornered. Admiral Zethkar's eyes blazed with ancient fury. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 700 worlds. We do not reconsider because of primitive upstarts who think their crude toys can stand against our might. Deploy the First Fleet. This will be over within 1 rotation. 3 days later, Admiral Zethkar stared at his tactical display in growing bewilderment. The First Fleet, 300 vessels representing the finest military technology in the galaxy, was being systematically destroyed by less than 50 human ships. Report, he commanded his tactical officer. The young Zephyrian's scales had turned pale with shock. Sir, the humans, they're not fighting according to any known tactical doctrine. They're using their own ships as weapons, sir, ramming attacks at velocities that should be impossible. They're turning their nuclear reactors into bombs, creating artificial supernovas that chain react through our formations. On the display, another human destroyer executed a maneuver that defied logic. Instead of retreating when overwhelmed, it accelerated directly into a Zephyrian dreadnought, its crude fusion engine overloading at the moment of impact. The explosion consumed both ships and damaged 3 others. Suicide attacks? Zethkar's voice cracked. But they're throwing away their technological advantages. Those ships represent years of labor, irreplaceable resources. Admiral, his communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the human commander. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a scarred human face beneath a battered helmet. Commander Sarah Chen's eyes held no fear, only grim determination. Admiral Zethkar, she said, her voice steady despite the explosions visible through her bridge windows. You made one critical error in your calculations. You assumed we fight to preserve our technology, our ships, our lives. You assumed we follow your rules. The connection cut as Chen's ship executed another impossible maneuver, using its damaged hull to shield a smaller vessel while simultaneously launching every missile it carried directly into its own reactor core. The resulting explosion carved a hole through the center of the Zephyrian formation. They're insane, whispered the tactical officer. But Zethkar was beginning to understand. The other galactic civilizations had spent millions of years perfecting the art of warfare within accepted parameters. Wars were fought with calculated risks, acceptable losses, and strategic preservation of resources. There were rules, unspoken but universally understood. Humans had never learned those rules. On the display, the remaining human vessels were regrouping. Their formations looked chaotic compared to the elegant patterns of galactic military doctrine, but there was a terrifying creativity to their madness. They welded debris to their hulls as improvised armor. They rigged their communication arrays to emit electromagnetic pulses that scrambled Zephyrian targeting systems. One resourceful human captain had somehow jury-rigged his garbage disposal unit into a kinetic weapon launcher. Sir, The communications officer's voice was barely a whisper. "We're receiving surrender requests from our own ships." The implications hit Zethkar like a plasma bolt. His crews, trained in civilized warfare where surrender was an acceptable outcome when faced with overwhelming odds, were encountering an enemy that treated every engagement as a fight to the death. The psychological effect was devastating. But the humans weren't fighting to the death out of desperation. They were fighting that way by choice. As if to prove the point, another human transmission cut through the static. "Zephyrian Fleet," came a new voice, younger than Chen's but equally resolute. "This is Captain Martinez of the UES Defiance. We've analyzed your weapon patterns and identified 17 critical weaknesses in your formation protocols. We're transmitting our findings to all human vessels. Recommend you update your tactics immediately." "They're sharing intelligence in real time," the tactical officer reported in amazement. "No encryption, no secured channels. They're broadcasting their discoveries on open frequencies." Zethkar realized the final truth that made his species' defeat inevitable. The Zephyrians, like every other galactic civilization, hoarded their tactical knowledge. Sharing combat intelligence was seen as weakness, a surrender of strategic advantage. Humans shared everything. Every successful tactic was immediately copied by the entire fleet. Every innovation spread like wildfire through their ranks. They were evolving their combat doctrine in real time, adapting faster than any military computer could calculate countermeasures. The human fleet wasn't just fighting, it was learning. "Admiral," his sensor operator called out. "Massive energy signature detected. The humans are, sir, they're moving their entire moon." On the display, Luna was accelerating out of Earth's orbit, its surface bristling with hastily mounted rocket engines. The humans had turned their natural satellite into the largest kinetic weapon in the solar system. Zethkar slowly lowered himself into his command chair. In 3 days, a primitive species had rewritten the fundamental rules of galactic warfare. They had shown that technology meant nothing against creativity, that superior firepower was useless against absolute commitment, and that tactical doctrine was worthless against innovation. "Signal the retreat," he commanded quietly. As the remnants of his fleet limped away from the Sol system, Zethkar composed his report to the Galactic Council. It would be a short document consisting of a single recommendation. Leave the humans alone. They didn't fight wars, they fought everything,